Hello, English learners. Welcome back to English Practice with Julia. I am Julia, your host for today. If you are new here, I would like to tell you that we upload a new English learning video every day on this channel to help you improve your English faster and more confidently. In today's episode, you will not only improve your English listening skills, but you will also develop stronger speaking habits and clearer thinking in English. In today's lesson, we are diving into a very important and very real topic that stops many learners from moving forward. The big mistakes that stop you from learning English. Yes, today, we are going to talk honestly about the habits, fears, and misunderstandings that quietly block your progress. We will go through real-life daily situations, practical listening examples, and natural English explanations that will help you recognize these mistakes in your own learning journey. You will hear natural sentence flow, useful expressions, and clear explanations that you can immediately apply in your everyday life. Many learners think they are not improving because English is too difficult. But in reality, small repeated mistakes in learning strategy are usually the real reason. Maybe you translate too much. Maybe you are afraid of making mistakes. Maybe you only study grammar but never practice speaking. Or maybe you start strong and then lose consistency. By the end of this video, you will clearly understand what might be slowing you down. And more importantly, you will learn exactly what to do instead. I will also guide you through listening and speaking practice exercises inside this lesson so you can actively train your brain while you listen. This is not just theory. This is practical, daily life English improvement. Before we begin, make sure to subscribe to the channel and press the bell icon if you want more helpful English learning episodes like this. So, take a deep breath, grab a pen and paper if you like, and let's begin this journey together. One of the biggest mistakes that quietly stops people from learning English is waiting to feel ready before they start speaking. Many learners tell themselves, or I will speak when my grammar is perfect, or I will talk when I know more vocabulary, or I am not confident yet. And days turn into weeks, and weeks turn into months, and they are still waiting. The truth is, you will never feel fully ready. Even advanced speakers sometimes feel nervous. Even fluent speakers sometimes make mistakes. Confidence does not come first. Practice comes first. And confidence slowly follows. Imagine this situation. You are at work. A colleague asks you a simple question in English. Did you finish the report? You understand the question perfectly, but your mind freezes. You start translating in your head. You check grammar in your mind. You panic about tenses. And in those few seconds of silence, the moment passes. This happens not because you don't know English, but because you trained yourself to think about English instead of using English. Now, let's practice together. I want you to imagine someone asks you, "How was your day?" Don't overthink. Just answer naturally in your mind or softly out loud. You can say, My day was busy but productive. Pause. Or, it was a little stressful, but I managed everything. Pause. Or, it was quite normal. I worked, came home, and relaxed. Pause. Notice something important. None of these answers are complicated. They are simple, clear, natural. That is enough. Another major mistake is studying too much grammar but not using it in real life. Grammar is important. Yes, but grammar alone will never make you fluent. You can know all the rules about present perfect, past continuous, conditional sentences, but if you never use them in real conversations, your brain will not build speaking speed. Think about how children learn language. They do not study grammar rules first. They listen. They repeat. They try. They make mistakes and slowly improve. As an adult learner, you don't need to ignore grammar, but you must balance it with action. Let's try a small practice now. I will give you a sentence in basic form, and you expand it naturally. The simple sentence is, I was tired. Now expand it. You can say, I was tired because I didn't sleep well last night. Pause. Or, I was tired after working all day. Pause. Or, I was really tired, so I decided to go to bed early. Pause. Do you see what is happening? You are not thinking about grammar rules. You are just communicating meaning. That is real progress. Another common mistake is comparing yourself to others. Maybe you watch someone speaking fluent English on social media, and you think, I will never sound like that. This kind of thinking slowly kills motivation. But what you don't see is their journey. You don't see their mistakes, their awkward sentences, their embarrassing moments, their slow progress at the beginning. Everyone starts somewhere. Instead of comparing yourself to someone at level C1 or C2, compare yourself to who you were 3 months ago. Are you understanding more now? Are you recognizing more words? Are you speaking a little faster? If yes, that is growth. Let's reflect together. 3 months ago, could you understand a 30-minute English lesson like this? Maybe not, but now you are here. Listening, understanding, improving. That matters. Another serious mistake that blocks learning is fear of making mistakes. Many learners treat mistakes like enemies, but mistakes are actually teachers. If you say, she go to work yesterday, and someone corrects you, now you will remember, she went to work yesterday. That correction becomes strong in your memory because you experienced it. Mistakes create emotional memory, and emotional memory improves learning. Let's practice this concept. I will say a sentence with a mistake, and you correct it mentally. He don't like coffee. Pause. You should think. He doesn't like coffee. She didn't went to the party. Pause. Correct it. She didn't go to the party. Very good. See? Making and correcting mistakes is powerful training. Another hidden mistake is learning English only when you feel motivated. Motivation is not stable. Some days you feel excited. Some days you feel tired, stressed, busy. If you only study when you feel inspired, your progress will be inconsistent. Instead, build a simple daily habit. Even 15 minutes every day is stronger than 2 hours once a week. Imagine this routine. Every morning, you listen to 10 minutes of English while drinking tea. Every evening, you speak for 5 minutes about your day. That small habit, repeated for 6 months, will completely change your and level. Let's practice a short daily speaking exercise now. I want you to describe your morning today in simple English. You can say, I woke up at 7. Pause. I checked my phone for a few minutes. Pause. Then I had breakfast and got ready for work. Pause. Keep going. Add details. I felt a little sleepy, but after coffee, I felt better. Pause. This is how fluency is built. Not by waiting, not by being perfect, but by small daily action. Another mistake many B1 learners make is trying to use very advanced vocabulary too early. You learn a complicated word and you feel excited, and you try to use it in every sentence. But communication is not about showing big words. It is about being clear. Instead of saying, I was utterly devastated by the unexpected circumstances, you can simply say, I was really upset because things didn't go as planned. Clarity is stronger than complexity. Now let's practice simplifying language. If you want to say, I was extremely exhausted due to occupational responsibilities, you can say, I was very tired because of work. Say it unnaturally. I was very tired because of work. Pause. Fluency loves simplicity. One more mistake that stops progress is passive learning. Watching videos without speaking. Listening without repeating. Reading without summarizing. Your brain learns faster when it is active. So right now, I want you to repeat this sentence softly. I am improving my English step by step. Pause. Again, I am improving my English step by step. Pause. Now say, mistakes are part of my progress. Pause. Very good. Active repetition builds speaking muscles. Finally, in this first part, I want you to understand something deeply. Learning English is not about talent. It is about consistent behavior. Some people think, I am not good at languages. But language learning is a skill, and skills grow with repetition. If you show up daily, even when it feels boring, even when it feels slow, you will improve. An improvement may feel invisible at first, but one day, You will notice you are thinking in English without translating. You are answering faster. You are understanding movies better. That moment comes quietly, but it comes. So ask yourself honestly, which mistake have I been making? Waiting to speak, focusing only on grammar, being afraid of mistakes, comparing myself to others, studying only when motivated. Awareness is the first step to change, and you have already taken that step. Now let's go deeper into another mistake that silently slows down your progress. And that mistake is translating everything in your head before you speak. Many learners at the B1 level understand quite a lot. You can read articles. You can follow conversations. You can understand lessons like this. But when it is time to speak, your brain automatically switches back to your native language. You build the sentence there first, and then you try to convert it into English. This process feels safe, but it makes speaking slow and stressful. Imagine someone asks you, "What are your plans for the weekend?" If you translate first, your brain might say in your native language, "I will visit my cousin, then maybe go shopping, and I need to finish some work." Then you start converting word by word, checking grammar, checking tense, worrying about mistakes. By the time you finish thinking, the conversation has already moved on. Now let's try a different approach. Instead of translating full sentences, use simple English building blocks directly. For example, when someone asks about your weekend, think in small English pieces. I will visit my cousin. Pause. After that, Waj, maybe I will go shopping. Pause. I also need to finish some work. Pause. Short, direct, natural. Fluency is not about long, perfect sentences. It is about smooth connection between simple ideas. Let's practice training your brain to think directly in English. I will give you a daily life situation, and I want you to respond quickly in simple English without overthinking. Situation 1. Your friend asks you why you look tired today. You can answer, I didn't sleep well last night. Pause. Or, I went to bed very late. Pause. Or, I have a lot of work these days. Pause. Notice how these answers are short, but complete. Now, situation 2. Someone asks you what you usually do after work. You can say, I usually go home and relax. Pause. Sometimes I watch TV or scroll on my phone. Pause. On weekends, I meet my friends. Pause. This is how you slowly train your brain to respond directly in English. Another mistake that blocks improvement is being afraid of silence. Sometimes in conversation, you need 2 or 3 seconds to think, and that is completely normal. But many learners panic when there is silence. They feel embarrassed. They think the other person will judge them. So they either stop speaking completely or they switch back to their native language. But silence is not your enemy. Even native speakers pause. They say things like, let me think, or that's a good question, or well, I guess. These are called filler phrases, and they are extremely useful for B1 learners. Let's practice using them naturally. If someone asks you a difficult question, instead of freezing, say, "That's an interesting question." Pause. "Let me think for a second." Pause. "Well, I think." Pause. Now continue your answer slowly. These small phrases give your brain time to organize thoughts without stopping the conversation. Another common mistake is focusing too much on understanding every single word while listening. When you listen to English, especially in real life, you will not understand 100% of the words, and that is okay. But some learners panic when they miss one word. They stop listening to the rest of the sentence, and their brain becomes busy thinking about that one unknown word. As a result, they miss the whole message. Listening is about understanding meaning, not collecting vocabulary like a dictionary. Let's practice this skill. I will say a longer sentence, and your job is to catch the general idea, not every word. Yesterday, I was supposed to meet my friend at the cafe, but something unexpected came up at work. So I had to cancel at the last minute. Pause. Even if you don't know every word, you probably understood the main idea. The person had plans. Something happened at work, and they canceled. That is successful listening. Now another example. I've been thinking about changing my routine lately because I feel like I'm not being productive enough. Pause. Maybe you don't fully understand productive enough, but you understand the general idea. The person wants to change routine because they are not satisfied with results. Train yourself to relax while listening. Relaxed listening improves comprehension more than stress listening. Another big mistake is quitting too early when progress feels slow. Language learning is not linear. It does not improve in a straight line. Sometimes you feel amazing progress. You understand everything. You speak confidently, and then suddenly you feel stuck. You forget words. You make simple mistakes. You feel like you are going backward. This is normal. Your brain is reorganizing information, building deeper connections. Progress often feels invisible before it becomes visible. Think about going to the gym. The first week, you feel pain, not muscles. The results are not visible immediately, but if you stop after 1 week, you never see change. English works the same way. Let's do a small reflection exercise together. Think about one thing in English that used to be difficult for you. Maybe understanding fast speech. Maybe using past tense correctly. Maybe speaking for more than 1 minute. Now ask yourself, I honestly. Is it still as difficult as before? Probably not. That means progress has happened, even if it was slow. Another mistake that stops many learners is learning without clear focus. Sometimes you watch random videos, read random articles, download random apps, but there is no structure. Structure does not mean complicated planning. It simply means knowing what you are practicing. For example, today I will practice speaking about daily routines. Tomorrow I will practice describing emotions. The next day I will practice asking questions. Focused practice gives your brain direction. Let's practice describing emotions right now. I will say a situation, and you respond with how you would feel. You worked very hard on a project, and your boss says, "Great job." You can say, "I would feel proud." Pause. "I would feel relieved." Pause. Now imagine you missed an important bus because you woke up late. You can say, "I would feel frustrated." Pause. Maybe a little angry at myself. Pause. Being able to express feelings clearly is powerful at B1 level. Another subtle mistake is avoiding real conversation because it feels uncomfortable. You might think, "I will practice alone first. Then I will speak to real people." But real communication is slightly messy, slightly unpredictable, and that is exactly why it is powerful. When someone asks you something unexpected, your brain grows faster. Even short conversations matter. Ordering coffee in English, asking for directions, sending a voice message to a friend. These small, real interactions build confidence much faster than silent study. Right now, I want you to imagine you are ordering food in English. You can say, "Hi, I'd like a chicken sandwich, please." Pause. "Can I also get a bottle of water?" Pause. "Is it possible to pay by card?" Pause. Simple, practical, useful. These are the sentences that create fluency in daily life. Finally, in this section, remember this important idea. English is not a school subject anymore. It is a communication tool. If you treat it like a test, you will always feel nervous. If you treat it like a tool, you will start using it naturally. And the moment you start using English instead of studying English, everything begins to change. Now let's talk about another mistake that many B1 learners make without realizing it. And that mistake is trying to learn too many things at the same time. Sometimes you feel motivated, so you download 3 new apps. You buy 2 grammar, ebooks. You start watching 5 different English channels. You save dozens of vocabulary lists. And for a few days, you feel productive, but very quickly. Your brain becomes overloaded. You don't know what to focus on. You forget what you studied yesterday, and slowly your motivation drops again. Learning English is not about quantity. It is about repetition and depth. If you learn 10 new words today but never use them again, they will disappear from your memory. But if you learn 5 words and use them in sentences for a week, they will stay with you. Let's practice deep learning right now. I will give you a simple word, improve. Now, instead of just knowing the meaning, let's use it in different sentences. I want to improve my English. Pause. I am trying to improve my pronunciation. Pause. She improved a lot in the last 6 months. Pause. This exercise will help you improve your listening skills. Pause. Now the word is not just vocabulary. It is active language. Another mistake that blocks progress is avoiding difficult situations. For example, maybe you understand slow English very well, but when you hear fast English, you immediately stop listening because it feels uncomfortable. Or maybe you can speak about daily routine, but when the topic becomes more serious, like opinions or problems, you change the subject. Growth happens slightly outside your comfort zone. Let's challenge you gently. Imagine someone asks you, what do you think is the biggest challenge in learning English? Take a second. You can answer. I think the biggest challenge is consistency. Pause. Many people start strong but stop after a few weeks. Pause. Or you can say, in my opinion, a fear of speaking is the biggest challenge. Pause. See, you are already expressing an opinion in English. Another common mistake is focusing too much on accent instead of clarity. Many learners worry. My accent is not perfect. I don't sound like a native speaker. But communication is about being understood, not about sounding perfect. There are millions of English speakers around the world, and most of them have accents. Your goal at B1 level is clear pronunciation, not perfection. Let's practice clarity. Say this sentence slowly and clearly. I would like to improve my communication skills. Pause. Focus on clear sounds, not speed. Now say, can you please repeat that? Pause. And, I didn't catch that. 1. Could you say it again? Pause. These are powerful survival sentences in real conversation. Another mistake that stops improvement is not reviewing old material. Many learners always want something new. New video, new grammar point, new vocabulary list. But memory grows stronger with repetition. If you listened to a lesson last week, try listening again today. You will notice you understand more. You will notice details you missed before. Repetition is not boring. It is training. Let's do a small memory practice. Earlier in this lesson, we talked about fear of making mistakes. Can you remember one example sentence with a correction? Maybe you remember, he don't like coffee, and the correction, he doesn't like coffee. That small review strengthens. Wide memory. Another mistake is learning English only through reading and writing, but ignoring listening. Listening is extremely important because it trains your brain to recognize natural speed and rhythm. If you only read, you control the speed. But in real life, you cannot control how fast someone speaks. So your ears must train regularly. Right now, listen carefully to this longer sentence. Even though I felt nervous at the beginning of the presentation, I gradually became more confident as I continued speaking. Pause. Try to repeat part of it, maybe just the second half. I gradually became more confident as I continued speaking. Pause. This kind of repetition improves both listening and speaking together. Another mistake is thinking that vocabulary alone equals fluency. You might know hundreds of words, but if you don't know how to connect them smoothly, speaking becomes difficult. Fluency is about chunks of language, not single words. For example, instead of learning the word decision alone, learn the chunk, make a decision. Instead of just mistake, learn, make a mistake. Let's practice chunks together. Say, I made a mistake. Pause. Now, I need to make a decision. Pause. And I am trying to make progress. Pause. Notice the pattern. Make plus something. Learning in chunks reduces hesitation when speaking. Another powerful practice for B1 learners is describing pictures in your mind, even if there is no real picture in front of you. Imagine you are in a park. It is afternoon. Children are playing. Two friends are sitting on a bench and talking. A man is walking his dog. Now describe it in English. In the park, boy, I can see children playing. Pause. Two people are sitting on a bench. Pause. A man is walking his dog near the trees. Pause. This exercise trains present continuous naturally, without thinking about grammar rules. Another mistake is not paying attention to common daily phrases. Fluency in daily life depends more on small expressions than on big vocabulary. Expressions like, it depends. Pause. I'm not sure. Pause. That makes sense. Pause. I see what you mean. Pause. Let's practice them in short mini conversations. Someone says, should we go out tonight or stay home? You answer, it depends. Pause. They ask, on what? You say, it depends on how tired I feel. Pause. Or someone explains an idea, and you respond, that makes sense. Pause. These small phrases make your English sound natural and confident. Another mistake that stops progress is negative self-talk. If you constantly say to yourself, my English is bad. I am too slow. I will never be fluent. Your brain starts believing it. Instead, try changing your internal language. Say to yourself, I am improving every day. Pause. I may not be perfect, but I am progressing. Pause. I can communicate how, and that is what matters. Pause. Your mindset directly affects your learning speed. Finally, in this section, remember that learning English is not a race. Some people reach B2 in 1 year. Others take 2 years. Others take more time. Speed is not the most important thing. Consistency is. If you continue practicing, listening, speaking, making mistakes, correcting yourself, you will move forward, and step by step, your English will become part of your daily life, not something separate or scary. Now let's explore another mistake that quietly blocks many learners at the B1 level. And that is practicing English only in study mode, but not in real life mode. When you sit with a notebook, when you open a lesson, when you press play on a learning video, your brain understands that it is time to study. You focus. You listen carefully. You try to remember new words. But the real test of English is not in study mode. It is in daily life mode. Daily life mode is when someone suddenly asks you a question, when you need to explain a problem, when you have to express an opinion without preparation. Many learners are strong in study mode, but freeze in daily life mode. So we need to train both. Let's simulate daily life mode right now. Imagine your friend asks you unexpectedly, "Why are you learning English?" Don't prepare a perfect answer. Just respond naturally. You can say, "I'm learning English because it helps me in my career." Pause. Or, "I want to travel more easily." Pause. Or, "I enjoy understanding movies and books in English." Pause. Keep it real. Keep it simple. Now imagine someone asks, "What do you usually do when you feel stressed?" You can answer, "When I feel stressed, I try to take a short break." Pause. "Sometimes I go for a walk." Pause. "I listen to music to relax." Pause. This is daily life language. Another big mistake that slows progress is avoiding longer answers. At B1 level, many learners answer in very short sentences. For example, question, "How was your weekend?" Answer, "It was good." That is correct. But it does not help you grow. Let's expand it. How was your weekend? You can say, "It was good. On Saturday, I met a friend for coffee. And on Sunday, I stayed home and watched a movie." Pause. Now your answer has details, time expressions, actions. Longer answers train fluency and confidence. Let's practice expanding answers together. I will give you a short answer, and you expand it. Short answer, "I like my job." Now expand it naturally. "I like my job because it allows me to learn new things." Pause. "I like my job, although sometimes it can be stressful." Pause. I like my job because my colleagues are supportive. Pause. Notice how we added reasons, details, contrast. This is how B1 moves toward B2. Another mistake that blocks learning is focusing only on correctness and ignoring communication. Sometimes you are so worried about grammar that you forget to communicate meaning. Imagine you want to say something important, but you stop because you are not sure if the tense is correct. Instead of stopping completely, communicate with what you know. For example, instead of worrying about perfect structure, say, yesterday, I go to market. Sorry, I went to the market. Pause. Self-correction is powerful. You don't need to be silent until you are perfect. Another important mistake is not practicing asking questions. Conversation is not only about answering, it is also about asking. If you only practice answers, you become passive in communication. Let's practice asking questions. Imagine you meet a new colleague. You can ask, how long have you been working here? Pause. What do you like most about your job? Pause. Do you usually work from home or from the office? Pause. Asking questions keeps conversations alive. Now, let's practice a short mini dialogue in your mind. Person A. I'm thinking about changing my job. You respond, oh, really? Why are you thinking about changing it? Pause. They answer, I feel like I need a new challenge. You say, that makes sense. What kind of job are you looking for? Pause. See how natural this feels. Another mistake that many learners make is avoiding repetition because it feels boring. But repetition is exactly what builds automatic speaking. Let's repeat a short paragraph together. I am learning English because I want to communicate confidently. Even if I make mistakes, I will continue practicing. Every day, I am improving little by little. Pause. Now say it again. I am learning English because I want to communicate confidently. Even if I make mistakes, I will continue practicing. Every day, I am improving little by little. Pause. Repetition strengthens fluency. Another hidden mistake is not paying attention to connectors. Connectors make your speech smooth. Words like because, although, however, so, therefore, meanwhile. Let's practice using connectors naturally. I was tired, so I went to bed early. Pause. I wanted to go out, but it started raining. Pause. Although I was nervous, I gave the presentation. Pause. These small words connect ideas smoothly. Now, let's build a slightly longer response using connectors. Yesterday, I planned to exercise, but I was too busy with work. However, I still managed to take a short walk in the evening, so I felt a little better. Pause. That is fluent B1 speaking. Another mistake that stops improvement is not speaking out loud. Listening silently is helpful, but your mouth needs practice too. Speaking uses different muscles, different coordination. So right now, I want you to read this sentence softly. Speaking regularly helps me gain confidence. Pause. Now. Even short conversations improve my fluency. Pause. If you feel shy, speak quietly, but speak. Your voice must get used to English sounds. Another mistake is expecting fast results without patience. Some learners say, I have been studying for 3 months, but I am not fluent. 3 months is a short time for a language. Think about how many years you have spoken your native language. Fluency is built through hundreds of small repetitions. Let's do a reflection exercise. Ask yourself, did I practice today? Did I listen carefully? Did I try to speak, even for 5 minutes? If the answer is yes, you are on the right path. If the answer is no, tomorrow is another chance. Another mistake improve my fluency. Pause. If you feel shy, speak quietly, but speak. Your voice must get used to English sounds. Another mistake is expecting fast results without patience. Some learners say, I have been studying for 3 months, but I am not fluent. 3 months is a short time for a language. Think about how many years you have spoken your native language. Fluency is built through hundreds of small repetitions. Let's do a reflection exercise. Ask yourself, did I practice today? Did I listen carefully? Did I try to speak, even for 5 minutes? If the answer is yes, you are on the right path. If the answer is no, tomorrow is another chance. Another mistake is thinking that you must understand complex topics before you are ready. You can talk about simple things very well, and that is enough for B1. For example, describe your city. My city is quite busy. Pause. There are many shops and restaurants. Pause. Traffic can be heavy during rush hour. Pause. This is clear communication. Now add opinion. In my opinion, my city is a good place to live because there are many opportunities. Pause. That is strong. B1 performance. Remember, progress is built through daily simple communication, not through perfect advanced speeches. The more you speak about real life, your job, your family, your routines, your opinions, the more natural English becomes for you. And step by step, your brain stops translating, stops panicking, stops doubting, and starts communicating. Now let's look at another mistake that many learners do not notice. And that mistake is learning English only in safe topics and avoiding deeper conversation. Safe topics are things like daily routine, food, hobbies, weather. These are important, yes. But if you always stay in these areas, your English stops growing. Real-life conversations are not always about simple things. Sometimes people talk about problems, decisions, regrets, goals, disagreements. If you never practice expressing these ideas, you will feel uncomfortable when they appear in real life. So, let's gently move outside safe topics. Imagine someone asks you, "What is something you regret from the past?" Take a breath. You can answer simply, "One thing I regret is not starting English earlier." Pause. "I regret not taking more risks in my career." Pause. It's not a big regret, but sometimes I wish I had managed my time better. Pause. See, it doesn't have to be dramatic or perfect. It just needs to be honest and clear. Now imagine someone asks, "What is one goal you are working on right now?" You can say, "One goal I'm working on is improving my communication skills." Pause. "I'm trying to build better daily habits." Pause. "I'm focusing on being more confident when I speak." Pause. These kinds of answers train emotional vocabulary and opinion structures. Another mistake that blocks learning is memorizing long lists of vocabulary without context. You may have a list like this: achievement, responsibility, opportunity, environment, development. You understand their meanings. But when you try to speak, the words don't come unnaturally because vocabulary must live inside sentences. Let's activate these words right now. Learning English gives me more opportunities. Pause. I have more responsibility at work than before. Pause. Personal development is important for long-term success. Pause. Now the words are connected to meaning. Another mistake that stops improvement is not practicing paraphrasing. Paraphrasing means saying the same idea in a different way. This is extremely important when you forget a word. Imagine you forget the word exhausted. Instead of stopping, you can say, "I was very tired." Pause. Or, "I had no energy at all." Pause. Communication continues. Let's practice paraphrasing together. Sentence 1. The meeting was postponed. You can say, "The meeting was moved to another day." Pause. Or, "They decided to have the meeting later." Pause. Sentence 2. I was disappointed. You can say, "I felt upset." Pause. Or, "I wasn't happy with the result." Pause. Paraphrasing is a powerful fluency skill. Another mistake is thinking that listening practice means only understanding. Listening practice should also include prediction. When someone starts speaking, your brain should guess what comes next. Let's try this. I will begin a sentence, and you try to guess the ending. If I have enough time this weekend, I will. Maybe you thought, relax, visit someone, study, clean the house. Your brain is predicting naturally. Now another one. I was nervous at first, but after a few minutes, maybe you guessed, I felt better. I became confident. I relaxed. Prediction makes listening active instead of passive. Another mistake that slows progress is avoiding speaking about problems. In real life, we often talk about challenges. For example, I'm having trouble managing my time. Pause. I find it difficult to stay motivated. Pause. I'm struggling with pronunciation. Pause. Let's expand one of these ideas. I'm having trouble managing my time because I get distracted easily. I start working, but then I check my phone, and suddenly 1 hour is gone. Pause. This is honest, practical English. Another mistake that many learners make is speaking too fast because they want to sound fluent. Fluency is not speed. Fluency is smoothness and clarity. It is better to speak slowly and clearly than quickly and incorrectly. Let's practice controlled speed. Say slowly, I am working on improving my English every single day. Pause. Now again, a little more natural, but still clear. I am working on improving my English every single day. Pause. Control builds confidence. Another mistake is thinking that mistakes mean failure. Mistakes mean information. When you make a mistake, you discover what needs attention. For example, if you often forget the third person ses, that tells you something important. You can then practice sentences like, he works hard. Pause. She speaks clearly. Pause. It makes sense. Pause. Targeted correction improves accuracy faster than random study. Another common mistake is not reflecting after practice. After speaking or listening, ask yourself, what was easy? What was difficult? Which words did I forget? Reflection turns experience into improvement. Let's do a quick reflection exercise now. Think about today's lesson so far. Which mistake sounds familiar to you? Do you translate too much? Do you avoid speaking? Do you study without structure? Awareness is progress. Another mistake that blocks fluency is not telling stories. Storytelling trains past tense, sequence words, and emotion together. Let's practice telling a short story. Think about something small that happened yesterday. You can say, yesterday I woke up late because my alarm didn't ring. I rushed to get ready and skipped breakfast. When I arrived at work, I realized I forgot an important document at home. It was a stressful morning. But in the end, everything worked out. Pause. Notice how this story includes sequence words like yesterday, because, when, but in the end. Storytelling builds real-life fluency. Another mistake is not practicing agreement and disagreement. Real conversation includes opinions. If someone says, I think working from home is better, you can agree. I agree. It saves time and reduces stress. Pause. Or you can disagree politely. I see your point. Team, but I think working in the office improves teamwork. Pause. Polite disagreement is an advanced B1 skill. Another mistake that slows learning is being too serious all the time. Language should also be enjoyable. Laugh at your mistakes. Be curious. Play with sentences. For example, make a funny exaggeration. I was so tired that I could sleep for a week. Pause. Even if it's not literal, it's expressive and natural. English becomes easier when it feels alive, not like an exam, and slowly, as you practice expressing opinions, telling stories, paraphrasing, predicting, expanding answers, you will notice something changing inside you. You will start responding faster. You will start worrying less about grammar. You will start enjoying conversations more. And that the moment when English becomes a tool instead of a fear, that is when real learning begins. Now let's explore another mistake that quietly slows down your improvement. And that is consuming English but not producing English. Many learners listen to podcasts, watch videos, read articles, scroll through English content every day, and that is good. But if your learning is only input and no output, your speaking muscles remain weak. Input builds understanding. Output builds fluency. You can understand 80% of what you hear, but still struggle to speak for 2 minutes without stopping. So we must balance both. Right now, we will practice turning input into output. I will give you a short idea, and you will respond to it in your own words. Idea. Consistency is more important than motivation. Now explain this idea in simple English. You can say, I think consistency is more important because motivation changes. Some days we feel inspired, but some days we don't. If we practice every day, even when we don't feel motivated, we improve more. Pause. That is active output. Let's try another idea. Idea. Mistakes help us learn. You can say, in my opinion, mistakes help us learn because when we make a mistake, we remember the correction. Zhao, it becomes stronger in our memory. Pause. You see how this works? You are not memorizing. You are thinking. Another mistake that blocks progress is avoiding long speaking sessions because they feel tiring. At B1 level, speaking for 1 minute might feel comfortable, but speaking for 3 or 4 minutes feels difficult. This difficulty is exactly what builds endurance. Fluency is not only about vocabulary, it is also about mental stamina. Let's train that stamina gently. I want you to speak in your mind for 1 full minute about this topic. How I usually spend my evenings. You can begin like this. In the evening, I usually finish my work and go home. After that, I like to relax for a while. Sometimes I watch a series or scroll on my phone. If I have energy, I cook dinner. Later, I might talk to my family or read something before going to bed. Pause. Now try to add more details. What time do you eat? Do you prefer quiet evenings or active ones? The longer you speak, the more natural it becomes. Another mistake that stops improvement is focusing too much on complex grammar structures too early. Some learners think they must master every conditional sentence, every advanced tense, every complicated rule before they can speak confidently. But real communication mostly uses simple structures. Let's compare. Complicated. Had I known about the consequences, I would not have made that decision. Simple but natural. If I had known about the consequences, I wouldn't have made that decision. Pause. Even simpler. If I knew the consequences, I wouldn't decide like that. Pause. Clarity first. Perfection later. Another mistake that many learners make is not practicing spontaneous reactions. In real conversation, you don't always have time to prepare. Let's practice quick reactions. I will say something surprising, and you respond naturally. I just quit my job. You can say, really? What happened? Pause. Wow, that's a big decision. Pause. Are you feeling okay about it? Pause. Now another one. I'm thinking about moving to another country. You can respond, that sounds exciting. Pause. Which country are you considering? Pause. Is it for work or study? Pause. Quick responses build conversational confidence. Another mistake is ignoring pronunciation patterns. You may know vocabulary, but if you stress the wrong syllable or connect words incorrectly, a communication becomes harder. For example, the word development. Say it naturally. Development. Pause. Now in a sentence. Personal development is important. Pause. Or the word comfortable. Many learners say it slowly as comfortable, but in natural speech, it becomes closer to comfortable. Practice saying, I feel comfortable speaking English. Pause. Pronunciation improves through repetition, not through fear. Another mistake that stops growth is learning only from one source. If you only listen to one accent, one speaking style, your brain becomes comfortable but not flexible. Expose yourself to different voices, different speeds, different situations. Even small differences train your listening skills. Another mistake is forgetting to celebrate small progress. Maybe today you understood a fast sentence that you couldn't understand last month. Maybe you spoke for 3 minutes without stopping. Maybe you asked a question confidently. These are victories. When you recognize progress, motivation becomes stronger. Let's do a small positive exercise together. Say in your mind, 3 months ago, I couldn't do this. Pause. Now say, I am improving, even if it feels slow. Pause. Your mindset shapes your results. Another mistake that blocks fluency is avoiding emotional expression. Real communication includes feelings. Instead of saying only, I am happy, expand it. I am really happy because I finally achieved my goal. Pause. Or, I feel a bit disappointed, but I know I can try again. Pause. Emotional vocabulary makes your English richer and more human. Another important mistake is not summarizing what you hear. After listening to something, try to summarize it in your own words. For example, you listened to a short story about someone who missed a flight because they arrived late at the airport. Now summarize. The person missed the flight because they arrived too late. There was traffic on the way to the airport house, so they couldn't check in on time. Pause. Summarizing improves both listening and speaking simultaneously. Another mistake is treating English like a subject instead of a skill. Subjects are things you study for exams. Skills are things you practice regularly, like driving, cooking, or playing a sport. You don't read about driving for 5 years and then suddenly drive perfectly. You practice slowly, make small mistakes, adjust, improve. English is the same. Let's practice combining several skills now. I will give you a short situation, and you respond with description, opinion, and emotion together. Situation. You had a difficult week at work but finished an important project successfully. You can say, "This week was challenging because I had many deadlines. I felt stressed at first, but after completing the project, I felt proud and relieved. In my opinion, hard weeks help us grow." Pause. This is strong B1 performance. Another mistake that slows progress is stopping practice when you feel embarrassed. Maybe you said something incorrectly and someone laughed or corrected you. Instead of feeling ashamed, see it as part of growth. Every fluent speaker has embarrassing language stories from the past. Embarrassment is temporary. Improvement is permanent. And as you continue practicing, speaking longer, reacting faster, summarizing better, expressing emotions clearly, you will notice your confidence growing quietly. It won't happen in one day, but one day you will realize that you are thinking in English without effort. And that is the result of all these small daily corrections and practices. Now let's move into another mistake that many learners experience but rarely talk about. And that is losing momentum after small progress. At the beginning of your English journey, everything feels new. Every new word feels exciting. Every small improvement feels big. But after reaching B1 level, progress feels slower. You already know basic grammar. You can handle daily conversations. You understand simple videos. And because improvement becomes less dramatic, you may feel stuck. This stage is dangerous because many learners stop here. They think, maybe this is my limit, but it is not your limit. It is simply a transition stage. At B1 level, improvement becomes more subtle. You are no longer learning basic survival English. You are refining fluency, accuracy, and natural expression. Refinement takes patience. Let's practice refinement right now. Instead of saying, I am very happy, try, I'm really pleased with the result. Pause. Instead of, I am very tired, try, I'm completely exhausted after today. Pause. Small upgrades like this move you forward. Another mistake that blocks growth at this level is avoiding longer listening passages because they feel overwhelming. Many learners prefer short clips, 1-minute audios, quick lessons, but real-life conversations are longer. So let's train your listening endurance. Listen to this short passage carefully. Last year, I decided to make a change in my daily routine because I felt like I wasn't using my time effectively. I used to wake up late, check my phone for almost an hour, and then rush through the rest of my morning. After a few months of feeling stressed and unproductive, I realized that small changes could make a big difference. So I started waking up 30 minutes earlier, preparing my tasks the night before, and limiting my screen time in the morning. At first, it felt difficult, but gradually I noticed that my days became more organized and less chaotic. Pause. Now try to summarize it in your own words. You might say, the person changed their routine because they felt unproductive. They used to wake up late and waste time on their phone. Later, they started waking up earlier and planning better. And their days improved. Pause. This is strong listening practice. Another mistake that slows improvement is not developing conversational flow. Flow means keeping a conversation moving naturally. For example, if someone says, I started learning English 3 years ago, you can respond with follow-up questions. Really? What motivated you to start? Pause. Was it difficult at the beginning? Pause. What helped you improve the most? Pause. Flow makes conversations dynamic instead of short and awkward. Another mistake at B1 level is being afraid to use idiomatic expressions. You don't need advanced idioms, but small natural phrases make a big difference. For example, step by step, pause, little by little, pause, at the end of the day, pause, once in a while, pause. Let's practice using them in sentences. I am improving step by step. Pause. I practice English little by little every day. Pause. At the end of the day, consistency matters more than talent. Pause. I make mistakes once in a while, but that's okay. Pause. These phrases sound natural and confident. Another mistake that blocks fluency is focusing too much on understanding native speakers perfectly. Even native speakers misunderstand each other sometimes. Your goal is effective communication, not perfection. If you don't understand something, use clarification strategies. For example, sorry, could you explain that in another way? Pause. Do you mean that? Pause. So, you're saying that. Pause. These strategies keep the conversation alive. Another mistake that stops progress is avoiding discussions about abstract ideas. At B1 level, you can begin talking about ideas like success, happiness, education, technology, balance. Let's try an abstract topic. What does success mean to you? You can answer. To me, success means feeling satisfied with my life and achieving personal goals. Pause. I don't think success is only about money. It's also about balance and happiness. Pause. See how you can express deeper ideas using simple language. Another mistake is not practicing time expressions clearly. Time expressions make stories organized. Words like yesterday, last week, a few years ago, recently, in the future. Let's practice using them naturally. A few years ago, I didn't feel confident speaking English. Pause. Recently, I started practicing more consistently. Pause. In the future, I hope to speak fluently without hesitation. Pause. Clear time expressions improve clarity and structure. Another mistake that slows growth is ignoring stress and rhythm in sentences. English has natural rhythm. Instead of saying every word equally, stress important words. For example, I really want to improve my English this year. Pause. Feel the stress on really English year. Natural rhythm improves listening and speaking together. Another mistake that many learners make is waiting for someone to correct every mistake. Self-correction is powerful. If you say, "She go to work every day," immediately correct yourself. "She goes to work every day." Pause. Self-awareness speeds up progress. Another important mistake is not connecting English to your personal life. If doubts, you only practice textbook topics, your motivation may drop. But if you talk about your real goals, real struggles, real dreams, English becomes meaningful. Let's do a personal reflection exercise. Answer this honestly in your mind. How will my life change if my English improves? You might say, I will feel more confident in meetings. Pause. I will have more career opportunities. Pause. I will travel more easily. Pause. When you connect English to your future, your motivation becomes stronger. Another mistake is giving up after one bad conversation. Maybe you felt nervous, forgot words, made mistakes. That does not cancel your progress. One difficult moment does not define your ability. Growth is measured over months and years, not minutes. And as you continue listening, speaking, summarizing, expanding, reacting, clarifying, reflecting, you are building layers of fluency, layer by layer, little by little, step by step. Your English becomes stronger, more flexible, more natural. And the mistakes that once blocked you slowly lose their power. Now let's move into a deeper and very important mistake that many learners experience at this stage. And that is practicing English only when life feels calm. When your schedule is light. When you are not stressed. When you feel mentally fresh. Practicing English feels easier. But real growth happens when you can maintain practice even during busy or difficult periods. If every time life becomes stressful, you stop practicing English completely, your progress becomes unstable. Instead of stopping completely, reduce the intensity but keep the habit alive. For example, if you normally practice for 30 minutes, and this week you are very busy, practice for 10 minutes. Listen to a short passage while commuting. Speak for 5 minutes before bed about your day. Small effort is better than zero effort. Let's simulate a busy day conversation. Imagine someone asks you, "How has your week been?" You can say, "It's been quite busy, to be honest. I've had several deadlines, so I haven't had much free time." Pause. "Even though it was stressful, I managed to finish everything." Pause. Now expand it. "I didn't sleep much at the beginning of the week. But by Thursday, things became more organized." Pause. Notice how you are combining present perfect and past simple naturally, without thinking about rules. Another mistake that slows improvement is not training problem-solving language. Real conversations often involve problems and solutions. Let's practice this pattern. Problem plus explanation plus solution. For example, I was having trouble understanding fast speech, so I started listening to short clips and repeating them several times. After a few weeks, I noticed improvement. Pause. Now create your own version mentally. Maybe your problem is vocabulary. I was forgetting new words quickly. So I started writing them in sentences instead of memorizing lists. Pause. This structure builds confident communication. Another mistake that many learners make is avoiding long sentences because they fear making grammar mistakes. But controlled long sentences are a sign of growth. Let's practice building a longer but clear sentence step by step. Start with a simple idea. I felt nervous. Now add a reason. I felt nervous because I had to speak in front of many people. Now add contrast. I felt nervous because I had to speak in front of many people, but after a few minutes, I became more comfortable. Now add reflection. I felt nervous because I had to speak in front of many people, but after a few minutes, I became more comfortable. And I realized that my fear was bigger than the reality. Pause. That is advanced B1 structure. Another mistake that blocks fluency is not practicing reacting emotionally in real time. In real conversations, people share news, surprises, problems, achievements. Let's train emotional reactions. Someone says, "I just got promoted." You can respond, "That's amazing news." Pause. You must be really proud. Pause. How are you feeling about it? Pause. Now, someone says, I failed my driving test. You can respond, I'm sorry to hear that. Pause. Don't worry. Bao, you can try again. Pause. I'm sure you'll pass next time. Pause. These reactions make you sound natural and supportive. Another mistake that stops improvement is overusing very basic words when you are ready for slight upgrades. For example, instead of always saying very big, try huge. Pause. Instead of very small, try tiny. Pause. Instead of very interesting, try fascinating. Pause. Let's practice using them in sentences. The city is huge compared to my hometown. Pause. The details were tiny but important. Pause. I watched a fascinating documentary last night. Pause. Small vocabulary upgrades create noticeable progress. Another mistake at this stage is not practicing describing processes. Describing processes helps in professional and academic contexts. For example, to prepare for the presentation, I first collected all the necessary information. Then I organized it into clear sections. After that, I practiced speaking several times to improve my confidence. Pause. Now create your own process description. How do you prepare for work? How do you cook your favorite meal? How do you study English? Describing steps trains sequencing language. Another mistake that slows progress is ignoring collocations. Collocations are word combinations that sound natural together. For example, make progress, not do progress, take responsibility, not make responsibility, have a conversation, not do a conversation. Let's practice them. I want to make progress in my English. Pause. She takes responsibility for her mistakes. Pause. We had an interesting conversation yesterday. Pause. Natural combinations improve fluency automatically. Another mistake is not practicing conditional thinking. Conditionals help you discuss possibilities and imagination. Let's practice simple conditionals. If I had more free time, I would practice English longer. Pause. If I feel tired, I usually take a short break. Pause. If I continue practicing, I will become more confident. Pause. These patterns appear often in daily speech. Another mistake that blocks growth is avoiding longer listening shadowing exercises. Shadowing means listening and repeating almost at the same time. Let's try a short shadowing passage. Listen carefully and then repeat in parts. Improving a language takes time and patience. There are moments when you feel confident and moments when you feel stuck. However, if you continue practicing regularly and stay consistent, you will notice gradual improvement. Pause. Now repeat the first sentence. Improving a language takes time and patience. Pause. Now the second. There are moments when you feel confident and moments when you feel stuck. Pause. Now the last. However, if you continue practicing regularly and stay consistent, you will notice gradual improvement. Pause. Shadowing trains rhythm, pronunciation, and fluency together. Another mistake is underestimating how powerful daily reflection can be. At the end of each day, and ask yourself in English, what did I learn today? What did I do well? What can I improve tomorrow? Even short answers build fluency. For example, today I learned how to expand my answers. Pause. I did well in listening carefully. Pause. Tomorrow I want to speak more confidently. Pause. Self-reflection strengthens awareness and language together. Another mistake that learners often make is expecting comfort instead of growth. Growth sometimes feels uncomfortable. Speaking in a second language can feel vulnerable. But vulnerability is part of improvement. Every time you speak, despite discomfort, you are building courage. And courage is essential for fluency. As you continue practicing longer responses, using connectors, upgrading vocabulary, shadowing passages, expressing emotions, you are slowly eliminating the mistakes that once stopped you. You are replacing hesitation with action, replacing fear with repetition, replacing doubt with experience. And that transformation happens quietly, not in one big moment, but in many small ones. Now let's move into a deeper layer of mistakes that often appear quietly when you reach this intermediate stage. And that mistake is becoming too comfortable with good enough English. Continue practicing longer responses, using connectors, upgrading vocabulary, shadowing passages, expressing emotions. You are slowly eliminating the mistakes that once stopped you. You are replacing hesitation with action, replacing fear with repetition, replacing doubt with experience. And that transformation happens quietly, not in one big moment, but in many small ones. Now let's move into a deeper layer of mistakes that often appear quietly when you reach this intermediate stage. And that mistake is becoming too comfortable with good enough English. At B1 level, you can survive in conversations. You can explain your ideas. You can handle daily communication. And because of that, you may stop pushing yourself further. You might think, people understand me, that's enough. But growth continues when you refine, adjust, and polish your language. For example, instead of always saying, I think, at the beginning of every opinion, try varying your expression. In my opinion, pause. From my perspective, pause. As far as I'm concerned, pause. These small changes expand your expressive range. Another mistake that limits progress is not practicing structured opinions. In many real-life situations, especially at work or in discussions, you need to express your opinion clearly and logically. Let's practice a simple opinion structure. State your opinion. Give a reason. Give an example. For example, in my opinion, working remotely can increase productivity because people have fewer distractions. For example, when I work from home, I can focus better without office noise. Pause. Now try it with another topic. Learning English every day is important because regular exposure strengthens memory. For instance, even 10 minutes of practice daily makes a difference over time. Pause. Structured thinking builds confident speaking. Another mistake that blocks fluency is ignoring conversation repair strategies. Sometimes you start a sentence and realize it's not clear. Instead of stopping completely, repair it naturally. For example, what I mean is, pause. Let me explain that differently. Pause. Actually, what I wanted to say was, pause. These phrases help you adjust without panic. Let's practice a repair example. I think English is difficult. I mean, it can feel difficult at the beginning, but it becomes easier with practice. Pause. That correction makes your speech flexible. Another mistake that slows development is not practicing hypothetical situations. Hypotheticals train imagination and advance structures. For example, if I could live anywhere in the world, I would choose a city with good weather and a calm lifestyle. Pause. If I had started learning English earlier, I might feel more confident now. Pause. Now create your own hypothetical in your mind. If I didn't need to work tomorrow, I would. Finish the sentence naturally. Hypotheticals expand your expressive ability. Another mistake is avoiding longer storytelling because you fear losing track of grammar. Let's practice a longer story together. 2 years ago, I decided to improve my English seriously. At first, I felt overwhelmed because there were so many resources available. I didn't know which method to choose. After trying several apps and courses, I realized that consistency was more important than variety. So I created a simple daily routine: listening for 15 minutes, speaking for 5 minutes, and reviewing vocabulary at night. Slowly, I began noticing small improvements. I could understand conversations more easily, and I felt less nervous when speaking. Although I still make mistakes, I feel much more confident than before. Pause. Notice the time expressions, the contrast words, the emotional reflection. This is strong B, one storytelling moving toward B2. Another mistake that many learners make is not training disagreement respectfully. In discussions, especially professional ones, a disagreement must be polite. For example, I understand your point, but I see it differently. Pause. I agree to some extent. However, I think there are other factors to consider. Pause. That's a valid opinion, but from my experience. Pause. Let's practice using one in context. I understand your point about working longer hours, but I believe productivity decreases when people are too tired. Pause. Polite disagreement shows maturity in language. Another mistake that slows progress is not managing anxiety before speaking. Before a conversation, your heart may beat faster. Your mind may say, "What if I forget words?" Instead of fighting anxiety, acknowledge it and continue speaking anyway. You can even use simple opening phrases to reduce pressure. To be honest, I'm still improving my English, but pause. I may not explain this perfectly, but pause. These sentences lower emotional tension. Another mistake that blocks natural fluency is overusing filler sounds like or excessively because you feel nervous. It's normal to pause, but controlled pauses sound more confident than nervous fillers. Instead of saying, I, think. Pause silently, then speak clearly. Silence can sound thoughtful rather than weak. Let's practice a thoughtful pause. I believe that education is important. Pause. Because it opens doors to opportunities. Pause. Notice how the pause feels natural. Another mistake is not practicing summarizing opinions from others. In meetings or discussions, summarizing shows understanding. For example, so what you're saying is that we need a clearer strategy before moving forward. Pause. From what I understand, you're concerned about the budget. Pause. Summarizing strengthens listening and response skills. Another mistake that limits improvement is focusing only on formal English and ignoring conversational tone. For example, formal. I would appreciate it if you could provide additional information. Conversational. Could you give me a bit more information? Pause. Both are useful, but flexibility is powerful. Another mistake is not practicing expressing uncertainty. Real life is full of uncertainty. You can say, I'm not entirely sure, but I think. Pause. It's hard to say, however. Pause. I'm not certain about that. Pause. Expressing uncertainty politely is an advanced skill. Another mistake that stops growth is forgetting to enjoy small conversations. Small talk builds fluency without pressure. For example, the weather has been strange lately. Pause. Have you watched any good movies recently? Pause. How has your week been so far? Pause. Small talk reduces fear of longer discussions. Another mistake is underestimating the power of daily self-recording. Record yourself speaking for 2 minutes about any topic. Then listen carefully. Notice pronunciation patterns, repeated mistakes, hesitation points. Self-recording builds awareness quickly. Another mistake that learners often make is expecting to feel fluent before they act. Fluent. Confidence is built through action, not waiting. If you wait to feel confident before speaking, you may wait forever. But if you speak first, even with mistakes, confidence follows gradually. And as you continue practicing structured opinions, hypothetical situations, storytelling, repair strategies, polite disagreement, summarizing, Chapter Emotional Expression. You are transforming your communication ability. You are no longer a passive learner. You are an active communicator. And the mistakes that once stopped you are becoming stepping stones instead of obstacles. Each correction, each repetition, each small improvement is shaping a stronger version of your English. Now, let's enter the final and very important phase of this journey together. Because another big mistake that stops learners from moving forward is not consolidating everything they have learned. Many learners collect knowledge, grammar rules, vocabulary lists, listening exercises, speaking tips, but they never pause and combine all these elements into one strong, a confident communication system. Consolidation means bringing everything together. So now we are going to practice integration. Imagine this real-life scenario. You are in a meeting at work. Your manager asks for your opinion about a new project deadline that feels too short. You need to express your thoughts clearly, politely, and confidently. You can say, "In my opinion, the proposed deadline might be a bit too ambitious because the team is already managing several tasks. If we extend it by 1 week, we may be able to deliver higher quality results. However, I understand the urgency of the situation. So perhaps we could prioritize the most important parts first." Pause. Notice what you just used: opinion structure, conditionals, polite disagreement, solution suggestion, connectors. That is integration. Another simulation. You are speaking with a friend who feels discouraged about learning English. They say, "I think I will never be fluent." You respond, "I understand how you feel because learning a language can be frustrating. However, progress is not always visible immediately. If you continue practicing regularly, even for a short time every day, you will notice improvement over time. Try to focus on small victories instead of perfection." Pause. Now you are using empathy, reassurance, conditional encouragement. Another important mistake learners make is not reviewing their own growth journey. Take a moment now. Think about the very first day you started learning English seriously. Maybe you struggled to form simple sentences. Maybe listening felt impossible. Maybe speaking caused anxiety. Now compare that version of yourself with the person listening right now. You are understanding complex explanations. You are reflecting on abstract ideas. You are building long sentences in your mind. That is growth. Another mistake that blocks final progress is expecting to eliminate all mistakes completely. Even advanced speakers make errors. The goal is not zero, mistakes. The goal is effective communication with increasing clarity. If someone understands your message clearly, you are succeeding. Let's do one final extended storytelling practice to consolidate everything. Imagine you are describing your English journey to someone new. You can say, "When I first started learning English, I felt overwhelmed because there was so much information available. I tried memorizing vocabulary lists and studying grammar rules, but I realized that I wasn't improving my speaking skills. After some time, I changed my approach and focused more on daily practice. I began listening regularly, speaking even when I made mistakes, and reflecting on my weaknesses. Although progress was slow at times, I gradually became more confident. Now, I still have a lot to learn, but I feel comfortable expressing my ideas and participating in conversations. Pause. This paragraph combines past tense, reflection, connectors, emotional expression, progress narrative. That is integrated fluency. Another consolidation exercise. I will give you a topic and you combine opinion, example, contrast, and conclusion in one response. Topic. Is social media helpful for learning English? You might say, I believe social media can be helpful for learning English because it provides access to authentic content and different accents. For example, many learners watch short videos or follow educational pages to practice daily. However, it can also be distracting if not used carefully. In conclusion, social media is useful when it is part of a balanced learning routine. Pause. That response shows structure and balance. Another mistake that many learners face near this stage is losing belief in their ability to reach advanced levels. They think B1 is their final destination, but B1 is a bridge, not a ceiling. The difference between B1 and B2 is not talent. It is depth, consistency, and exposure. If you continue listening to longer materials, if you continue speaking for extended periods, if you continue correcting yourself and expanding vocabulary naturally, you will cross that bridge. Let's practice one final advanced fluency drill. Combine hypothetical thinking, emotion, and future plan in one response. If I continue practicing English every day for the next year, I believe I will become much more confident in professional situations. I may still make occasional mistakes, but I will handle conversations more smoothly. In the future, I hope to use English not only for work, but also for travel and personal growth. Pause. That is confident. Zhao, forward-looking communication. Another consolidation reflection. What mistakes used to stop you? Fear of speaking, overthinking grammar, translating too much, comparing yourself to others, lack of consistency. Now think about the strategies you have practiced today. Expanding answers, using connectors, paraphrasing, shadowing, expressing opinions politely, summarizing, reflecting daily. These tools replace old mistakes. And perhaps the biggest transformation is this. You are no longer waiting to feel ready. You are practicing despite imperfection. You are understanding that fluency grows through repetition and courage. Learning English is not about becoming someone else. It is about expanding your ability to express who you already are. Your ideas, your opinions, your humor, your emotions, your ambitions. English is simply a tool that allows those parts of you to reach more people. And when you stop fearing mistakes and start embracing practice, the journey becomes lighter, more enjoyable, more sustainable. Progress may still feel gradual, but it becomes steady, step by step, little by little, layer by layer. You are building something strong and lasting. And the big mistakes that once stopped you are no longer barriers. They are lessons that shaped your growth. Keep practicing, keep reflecting, keep speaking even when it feels uncomfortable. Because every sentence you form is proof that you are moving forward. Now let's complete this journey with one final reinforcement phase. Because the last mistake that quietly stops, and many learners, is stopping right before the breakthrough. Very often, improvement becomes noticeable right after a period of frustration. There is a stage where everything feels repetitive, where progress feels slow, where motivation feels lower than before. And many learners quit exactly at that moment. But that moment is not a wall. It is a doorway. When your brain feels slightly tired, slightly stretched, slightly challenged, it is reorganizing information, building stronger connections. If you continue practicing through that stage, something changes quietly. You begin to respond faster. You begin to hesitate less. You begin to trust yourself more. So now, let's consolidate everything one last time with a long integrated speaking simulation. Imagine you are in a professional setting and someone asks you to introduce yourself and explain your goals. You can say, "Hello, everyone. My name is Julia. I've been working in my field for several years, and during that time, I realized how important communication skills are. At first, I felt nervous speaking English because I was afraid of making mistakes. However, I understood that improvement requires practice, so I started using English daily, even in small ways. Over time, I became more comfortable expressing my ideas. My current goal is to continue improving my fluency so I can participate confidently in international discussions. Although I still make occasional mistakes, I focus on clarity and consistency rather than perfection." Pause. Notice the structure: introduction, past reflection, contrast, current goal, balanced conclusion. That is strong intermediate communication moving forward. Now let's practice a deeper reflective exercise. Imagine someone asks you, "What has learning English taught you about yourself?" You might respond, "Learning English has taught me patience because progress takes time. It has also taught me resilience, since I had to continue practicing even when I felt discouraged. Most importantly, it showed me that improvement is possible when I stay consistent. Even if results are not immediate, Shafa daily effort eventually leads to growth." Pause. This kind of reflection shows emotional maturity and linguistic development together. Now let's do one final shadowing passage that brings together mindset and fluency. Listen carefully and repeat in parts. Fluency is not a sudden achievement. It is the result of small daily actions. Every conversation, every mistake, and every correction contributes to improvement. When learners stop fearing imperfection and start valuing consistency, progress becomes inevitable. Pause. Now repeat the first sentence. Fluency is not a sudden achievement. It is the result of small daily actions. Pause. Now the second. Every conversation, every mistake, and every correction contributes to improvement. Pause. Now the third. When learners stop fearing imperfection and start valuing consistency, progress becomes inevitable. Pause. Feel the rhythm, the confidence, the clarity. Another final integration exercise. Combine past challenge, present ability, and future vision in one smooth response. In the past, I struggled to speak English without translating in my head. I often hesitated and doubted my sentences. Now, I can express my ideas more naturally, even if I still pause sometimes to think. In the future, I aim to communicate confidently in both professional and personal situations, using English as a tool rather than seeing it as an obstacle. Pause. That is transformation expressed through language itself. And here is one last important truth. The biggest mistake that stops people from learning English is believing that they are not capable. Capability grows through action, not through waiting. Every time you speak despite uncertainty, you prove that you are capable. Every time you listen carefully and try again, you prove that you are capable. Every time you reflect and adjust your strategy, you prove that you are capable. Learning English is not about being perfect. It is about being persistent. It is about showing up repeatedly, even when improvement feels slow, because slow progress is still progress. And consistency transforms ability quietly over what time. As you move forward from this moment, remember what you have practiced. Expanding answers, using connectors naturally, expressing emotions clearly, building longer sentences step by step, paraphrasing when necessary, asking follow-up questions, summarizing ideas, using conditionals and hypotheticals, repairing sentences calmly, reflecting daily. These are not just techniques. They are habits of effective communicators. And you are building those habits right now. The journey does not end here. It continues with every conversation you attempt, with every 5-minute speaking practice, with every moment you choose courage over comfort. The mistakes that once stopped you are no longer obstacles. They are reminders of how far you have already come. And if you continue on step by step, little by little, there is no fixed limit to how far your English can grow. Thank you so much for spending your time with me today. If you stayed until this moment, that already shows something important about you. It shows commitment. It shows patience. And it shows that you truly care about improving your English. Today, we talked honestly about the big mistakes that can stop you from learning English. Fear of speaking, overthinking grammar, translating too much, lack of consistency, comparing yourself to others, and waiting to feel ready. But more importantly, you practiced replacing those mistakes with better habits. Expanding your answers, using connectors, expressing opinions clearly, telling stories, paraphrasing when necessary, and speaking even when you feel unsure. Remember this clearly. Fluency is not built in one perfect moment. It is built in many small, imperfect ones. If you continue practicing regularly, even for a few minutes every day, your confidence will grow naturally. Some days will feel easier. Some days will feel challenging, but both are part of the journey. Keep speaking, even if your voice shakes a little. Keep listening, even if you don't understand every word. Keep practicing, even when progress feels slow, because step by step, little by little, you are building something powerful. And I truly believe that you are capable of reaching a higher level than you imagine right now. If this lesson helped you, continue practicing with the same mindset. Stay consistent, stay patient, and most importantly, stay kind to yourself during the process. I'll see you in the next lesson. Until then, keep improving, keep believing, and keep speaking English with confidence.